Thank you for staying with us. And of course, you know that last week the National Assembly raised the alarm that 25 states, which are yet to support the bills on the amendment of the 1999 Constitution, are requesting that certain bills be included. Otherwise, they will not continue to consider the Constitution amendment process as well. To give us an understanding of what is happening, Professor Paul Ananaba joins us this morning. He's the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Nigerians.
So, first of all, how did you receive that news from the National Assembly?
Well, I mean, it's nothing that is strange. The Constitution in Section 9 has outlined what will be required to amend the Constitution, and particularly the Nigerian Constitution. Our Constitution is a rigid Constitution. It's written, so it's not a Constitution you can amend in any way you want. So when the amendment process goes through first reading, it goes through second reading, you begin to go to committees, public hearing, and all that. By the time whether it is voted by clause or whatever, by the time it gets to being passed by the National Assembly, both houses, it will go to the states. And why should it go to the states? It goes to the states because of the nature of federalism we have. And when it gets to the states, if they are to become just robots, then there's no point for it to go through the states. But my concern and worry about that is that this administration, this assembly, has a short time. You know, no constitutional amendment will practically go beyond that assembly. Even though the last assembly, the 8th assembly, tried to make rules that will assist bills to survive the assembly. But my brother, the practical effect is that any assembly that comes in will want to look at the bill and practically begin afresh. So if we have, where has the National Assembly gone all this while? In following up, you don't just throw these bills to those houses.
Conversation, what is interesting there is, I don't know if this has happened before, where all the states write a letter to the National Assembly and say, unless these bills are included in the proposition, the Constitution amendment, we're not going to consider the bills.
That's what I'm saying. They are not robots. They represent their people. This Constitutional amendment is the Constitution of the entire country. So if they come to a point where they see that their interest is not properly, that's why you have to have 24 states. If 25 states are now saying, no, we won't, then that bill cannot go on.
I'm a little confused.
The National Assembly needs to take back those and go back to review the requests by the states.
You say that the houses of assembly represent their people, but so do the members of the National Assembly. They represent their people from the same states.
No, you see, that's the politics in it. I'm from a federal constituency that has 3 local governments. One man representing 3 local governments. I don't know how much he will be able to do compared to the state House of Assembly, where my local government alone is a state constituency. So I'm not saying that anybody represents more, but when 2 of them are speaking, one is closer to the grassroots, practically speaking. So what am I saying? Then the state assembly will have its own input. The Constitution envisages that.
Well, I get
should
that.
Not be ignored.
I agree. I get that. And perhaps, of course, as you said, that is why the Constitution amendment process should go through the states. But the situation where the state House of Assembly are having this position is a question that I'm asking. Is that to say that there is a dissonance or distance between the representatives of the people at the National Assembly as opposed to the people in the state houses of assembly?
There will naturally be, and that's what the Constitution also envisages. You see, at the National Assembly, the discussions will be a bit different. The national issues are being looked at. You vote your rep to go to Abuja to discuss national issues, possibly from with such person's constituency perspectives in it. But when you elect a House of Assembly person, he's not looking at national issues. It's more circumscribed to what happens in the state. How does it affect my state? But the person going to us, he has nobody from another state to discuss with.
Interestingly, one of the bills that the 25 states have refused to talk about concerns the local governments that you mentioned earlier. You're saying that the State House of Assembly, for instance, they have representatives that are closer to the people at the local government level. But then one of the bills being considered, which the states have refused to take a look at, is the local government autonomy issue, which would have taken government closer to the people. So do you see a problem with that?
If we come from the prism of patriotism, we should worry. But if you look at the type of politics played at the states, there are very few states that have, unquote, independent assemblies. The governors control those houses of assembly. And that's why if a governor wants to remove a deputy governor, for example, before you turn around, the person is removed. Even when the judicial proceedings are ongoing. Now, when you see many of those assemblies writing, it is the government, it's the executive of that state that are writing. Because you dare not challenge the governor in your state as a rep, as somebody in the House of Assembly.
How does that affect the Houses of Assembly considering bills that will take government closer to the people?
So when you give local governments autonomy, the state governments are likely to collapse. How does these states make money? It's because you know the problem of Section 162 of the Constitution, state joint account. You have heard that many times, so I'm not going to go into that. When these monies come, how many of these local governments indeed get their allocation as they come from FARC? The state government finds its way, makes sure in many states that there's transition administration, so you have no mandate. You are appointed to go there and oversee. Then, in many cases, even when there's election, for you to get tickets and win, look at these states. In each of those states where elections are done at the local government elections, is it not the governor's party that wins all the states?
More questions to ask, Prof, but we need to take a short break, take a few messages, and we'll be right back to continue the conversation. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Well, Prof, when you say that, talking about the local government funding and the use it has on the states, I'm wondering, is that to say that we will never have local government autonomy again, so long as the governors have the kind of stranglehold they have on the House of Assembly?
That's why that amendment is being proposed. If that amendment goes through, remember, like I said, Section 162 of the Constitution talks about state joint account. That's where the problem came from. So, in a way, the governors are acting within the Constitution. But it may not be in the best interest of the system. Now, if the local governments are going to be third tier, let them be third tier. That's what they're trying to do, autonomy. And you have seen that this president has even gone through executive orders. Same with the judiciary and all that. So we need to allow these 8 levels of governance to have some degree of autonomy and operate properly. Now, if the system, the constitution remains as it is, local governments will continue to be more or less appendages, to governors. And I don't see any governor that will allow local government autonomy to take place.
Essentially, this is all about funding.
Exactly.
So, but we have had situations before in the previous republics where the local governments were functional in the interest of the people and in the interest of the political class. So if you're saying that, it would seem like right now the political class does not want the local governments to function, it seems, or rather it sounds like you're saying they do not see any value in it and consequently should probably be scrapped.
You find out that many state governors will want that happen. They just come back from FAC, look at the monies, look at these arguments and say, what is this local government? What is this local government we're talking about? What is it all about? Because if local governments today get their allocations directly as that amendment intends to address, most states will collapse. Very few states will survive. It is the local government allocation and all the judiciary and all that has helped some states to keep afloat. How much does an average state get from FAC? You see it published every day. The state will not operate.
So you're saying that the requests by the 25 houses of assembly of establishment of state police, their small
the voice of Joseph and the hand of Esau. It is state governments that are responsible for that. And they will never allow that amendment to go on, particularly when we have few days. So I will expect Nigerians to use their PVCs to correct it. How? Don't vote for any governorship candidate that does not make local government autonomy one of his selling points or programs. So any governor that doesn't say it and mean it will not allow it to happen. It is only when these local government autonomies come to place that state governments will now sit down and do governance. Because there will be no free available.
Yeah, well, Prof, I don't know if the value of the state houses of assembly, beg your pardon, the local government authorities are lost on the governors or on the governments and even the houses of assembly. Because back in time, I don't remember us having the level of insecurity that we have now. And as we often say, insecurity is, first of all, a local issue before it becomes a state or a national thing.
That's what I'm saying. Because of the failure of the local government system, schools, social amenities and all that, it aggregates to national insecurity. Because if local governments were providing roads, welfare, schools, because they actually get enough funds to do something, but those funds don't get to them. Because it gets into the state joint account, and they get what we don't know. Now, you cannot point to any local government in this country that executes projects. In any event, they have to go back to the governors to say, okay, can I to look for funds? So that constitutional contraption in Section 162 that creates state joint account, I do not think, we either do away with local governments and allow the states to create whatever is convenient for them that will work, or retain the 774 and make them autonomous. And then their funds will go direct to them. Each local government's fund will go to the local government itself.
But the Constitution recognizes the 774 local government authorities.
Not financially, as separate. Those funds will come into a joint account from where it will be disbursed.
So it's essentially like the Constitution saying, okay, you are there, but you have to still breastfeed.
Yeah, the Constitution may have meant well to say, because local governments in the state come together with the state government and carry out governance. But, you know, as it is today, it doesn't work in the interest of local governments and in the interest of the citizens, because nobody can say exactly how much each local government now finally gets.
Then don't also forget that perhaps this should be brought in. One of the issues, I think, as we mentioned earlier previously, is that the State Houses of Assembly want state police included in the Constitution amendment. Is that out of place? They've made that known over and over again. It will seem like the National Assembly turned a blind eye to them.
See, that's the point I'm making. The National Assembly will not be looking at state police favorably because of the apparent fear of what secession and all that, as you saw in the First Republic. State assemblies will favor it because the governors want to control the police. So you see the dynamism. When it gets to local government, the National Assembly wants autonomy. The state governments don't want that. So the dividing line and the way forward in the best interest of the country is to place patriotism on the table and crush any interest that goes against it.
If these constitution amendments, these amendments being proposed, local government autonomy and the rest of them, are to go through as is expected, with the quantum of money assigned every time every National Assembly has that budget line, constitution amendment, if it will ever go through, what kind of conversations should be happening between the National Assembly and the State Houses of Assembly?
Well, I cannot say for sure, but what I know is that if local governments begin to get the proper funding, the judiciary gets, the work of the state assemblies will be easier because there will be development, there will be activity at the grassroots, which is the essence of state assemblies. And to a large extent, it will also rub off at nationally. But because do you know how in many areas some of these national legislators are looked at? Even those of the state, they are not, the citizens at the local level are not unhappy with them. You can see some viral videos where some of them are booed and all that, because take my constituency, federal constituency. The three local governments in my federal constituency are virtually states. And
Prof,
what will a person in the National Assembly, House of Reps, from my federal constituency, if you are familiar with my federal constituency, those three local governments have over 40% of the population of the states. Three local governments. And now, one person in House of Reps, what will the person do?
It only raises more questions, Prof. And let's just say that, it's an ongoing conversation altogether. Professor Paul Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much for your perspectives this morning.